Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt, and welcome back to Crypto Kings. And today's video, we're going to be talking about exactly what Shiba Inu has been doing on the day. I know a lot of you guys have wanted me to give you an update, so without further ado, let's get right into it. So, taking a look at what we have, we are around neutral here over the past 24 hours. No real change of any kind here, sitting right around 4.7. Market cap here, of course, a little over $25 billion, which definitely does, keep us definitely on the radar, to say the least. Definitely creeping up on Avalanche, and if Avalanche happens to have a bad day on the same day Shib had a good day, it is very possible we could overtake Avalanche once again and potentially Doge. So there is a lot to consider in terms of that. And of course, volume-wise, we are down around 56% over the past 24 hours. And again, this is oftentimes a good thing, because if we can have a volume decrease with a price staying the same, that's generally good, because it means that even with less social media pumping and sort of social sentiment going on, the price is still sustaining itself. Now, remember, guys, we've had a lot of big announcements that have driven up the volume a great deal over the past few days. But what is most important is that we've been able to maintain our stature above this price here, of course, staying well into the high 40s, which is excellent, and definitely better than the high 30s, which is where we were before we saw the Kraken listing and all of that awesome news. Speaking of things that are awesome, guys, make sure to check out Webull. Top of the link down below in the description, guys. If you want to get started trading stocks, crypto, all that good stuff, and if you guys get started over there with my link for a limited time, Webull is actually giving out some shares of Apple. So for a few lucky people that use the link down below, you guys can get a free share of Apple or some other stuff. So definitely check it out. Link down below in the description. So when it comes down to, again, the volume situation, guys, I'm not complaining about this. I still think $4 billion is a great deal of money, believe me. But what is most interesting, again, like I've said, is that we have been able to see this volume decrease with a price that is staying the same. So, again, definitely enough buy volume is still in play to be able to have a negligible effect on the price. Now, when we take a look at our graph, guys, I was really looking at this and going, man, you know what? This really doesn't look like a wedge pattern of any kind. What could this be? And again, sometimes you gotta just do the old-fashioned Google, man. I mean, to say that you should have every one of these patterns memorized is crazy, because there's so many patterns, and, it is ridiculous to try to memorize every single one. So sometimes just take a minute, man, to go back to basics and do some Googling, man, because honestly, what I was looking for really was, again, some kind of wedge of sorts, and I was really trying to see, okay, is there some circumstance in which this is, another falling wedge? And that's possible, because, again, when we look at our long-term graph, man, I mean, really, this is basically the quintessential falling wedge. But again, when we look at more of a short term, I was curious what this is forming in the short term. And really, what this is doing that I hadn't noticed is a bull flag. And you guys can see, of course, we have the flagpole coming up here like this, and then the makings of a bull flag, which typically leads to a breakout near the end of it. So again, this is kind of a very common movement, which will happen during some kind of, monumental surge like this, is to have some kind of bull flag like this. And of course, you guys can see this is what one of these bull flags will typically do. It's basically a consolidation. It's consolidating a little lower, a little lower, a little lower until a surge. So in this circumstance, again, it looks as if we are getting ready to see something like this, because of course we have our flagpole coming up here. Then we have our, sort of consolidation, and we're just going to continue to consolidate a little lower until the surge. So again, this is a very possible scenario. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot tell you whether or not one of these scenarios is guaranteed or whatnot, but these scenarios are common enough that they definitely could play out in this situation. So, that is definitely worth looking at and sort of getting an idea for. Again, this very well could in the future, just turn out to be a falling wedge if, it basically does what it is supposed to do and kind of, creates this sort of wedge-like movement. And then we could sit here and go, oh yeah, this is very clearly, a falling wedge, and do something like this in the future. That is very possible, but, it is a little soon to tell, because really, when you have this surge all the way up from 39 all the way up to, 54, you could essentially throw away all of this. I mean, all of the previous activity becomes a little bit less important once you have a surge like this. It's essentially like a reset in this situation because, all of this previous activity isn't really all that important because in the end, we saw a massive surge, where SHIB basically almost doubled in a day or, went up like 50, 75% in a day. After having that, you're basically placed in a completely different situation, and it's your goal now to try to, reevaluate and see, where we're starting from. So again, I really consider this major flagpole as being essentially the start of a brand new movement. And of course, I see a bull flag going something like this. But when we check our indicators, of course, you guys know I always like to check those. You guys can see the relative strength index here. So again, we are definitely overextending ourselves during this run up. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, that we would not be able to sustain the 54, area for a long period of time without having some very predicted and very expected pullback. So, of course, we head up to around 54 here, of course. And what we are essentially being told is that, we are overextending ourselves. We have too much buy volume going on here, and therefore we need to sort of taper that back. And we do. We bounce off the 50 line again, which is great. So the 50 line here, right around 46, so definitely not a bad spot to sort of bounce off of. And then, we sort of just kind of move up a little bit, nothing major. And then we fall a little bit below that 46 line again, down a little bit below the 50 on the relative strength index. So definitely a little room to move up. And right now we're right around the middle. So really, what the relative strength index is showing is that, right around 40, 45, 46-ish, right around there is essentially our area of support. I mean, if you wanted to do something like this, you definitely could. If you wanted to be slightly more conservative with your estimate, you could make really the 44 line as an area of support because we haven't seen it get lower than that. And, you could assume that it would bounce off of the 44 line. So you definitely do have this option as well. When we check the Fibonacci retracement, of course, you guys know one of my favorites. It's going to tell us the top and the bottom of the most recent run here. So we have the top here at 54, of course, and the bottom here at around 44. And actually what it is showing is that the 23.6% line here has been sort of a big player in this because we are able to get past it once again. And right now it is sort of the question as to whether or not we will be able to sustain ourselves above the 23.6% line. So, from the 54 mark all the way down to the 44 mark, what this is essentially showing is that we have recouped 23.6% of our losses. So our losses from here to here, we have recouped 23.6% of those. That's basically how the Fibonacci retracement can be read in a situation like this. So again, I'm definitely interested to see whether or not we are able to bounce off of the 23.6% line here going into the near future because that would definitely be great and give us more of a launch pad to push towards 50 again. If we could keep, sort of getting past 50, that would be excellent because really I anticipate we hit the 50 mark and then come down, and then we hit it again and then we come down, and then we hit it again and then come down, and then you very well could see a triple bottom in that situation, which is inherently very bullish, or we could just continue the bull flag like I was talking about, which would lead to price action a little bit more like this before the run up. So those are the two bullish options that I see going on right now for SHIB. And of course, make sure folks to check out Webull, top of the link down below. So appreciate you guys watching. My name is Matt. Thank you guys so much for stopping by the video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you guys are new for daily SHIB vids. See you all on the next one. Peace.